Thank you, Luang Po.
Request for the Dhamma talk and also invite Luang Po to give us some meditation guidance. So if you have this brown book, it will be on page 154. If you have the white booklet, it will be on page 6. So we will just chant the Pali version. All right. So just to take note that for the second verse, okay, Kanta Jali Anand. So this is I've been pointed by an Ajahn who is also a Thai scholar that it should be Anadiwarang instead of Andiwarang. This refers to the Buddha. So just want to highlight this. So we will bow 3 times first before we formally request. Let's bow together. First bow. Second bow. Third bow. Let's chant together. Brahma Chaloka Dipati Sahampati Katanjali Anna Diwarang Ayachata Santi Dasata Paraja Kajatika Dese tu Dhammang Anukampi Mang Pajang. Let's bow again. Please be seated.
So, it's a lovely room, isn't it? I'm not used to such large spaces and large populations of Buddhists. I'm in Canada in a monastery which is very quite remote. So for us to have, say, 10 people come to the monastery is a big occasion. So this is a big deal for me. But I'm grateful for the organizers, for the monastery, for supporting this. We're very fortunate to be able to do this together. So we have 5 days to just consider our own meditation practice and how we can develop meditation practice. So I have a particular way of talking about meditation, and I don't know if it fits your ideas, but the idea of I think a contemporary teacher who's talking from his own experience is that it's for reflection. It's not like a dogmatic position. It's not something that you believe or disbelieve, but rather try it out, see if the words make sense, see if it's helpful for your own development. If it works, good. If it doesn't work, okay. This is the way it is. But the idea of reflection is very important, and I think we all know the Zen story where the master is pointing at the moon, and the disciple keeps looking at the finger, doesn't look at the moon, doesn't see what the master is talking about. And this is the way of words. Words are not truth. They're approximations and they're indicators of possible truths. And so the danger in any religious tradition, be it Buddhist or other, is to just take a position in the doctrine that you're used to functioning and thinking that's the truth, which we call ditupadana in Pali, attachment to views. Not that you shouldn't have views, but just holding to fixed views isn't really liberation. Whereas liberation is taking a teaching, and as I always say, trying to take a limited amount of teaching, a number of concepts which are appealing to you, and then trying to go very deeply into those concepts. So I always talk about the difference between encyclopedic knowledge. We have a broad accumulation of information on Theravada Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism, whatever, as opposed to, so an encyclopedic viewpoint with a lot of information to just a very, very small bit of information, but depth. And that's that way I've always been taught, to take a concept or take a group of ideas and really, really go deeply into my own consciousness, into my own experience, and see what is the Buddha pointing to, or what is my teacher pointing to in the way he's teaching. So in that way, I'm not a scholar. In that way, scholars are very important. They help us, see different angles on things. In terms of meditation, how I practice and what I like to share is I like to differentiate between. I don't like to use the word concentration when I talk about meditation. This is just language, right? So it's just the way I use language. I don't know how you use language. But for me, the word concentration is very much about an object. So like I enjoy making furniture, and we have a really good workshop, and we have very good hardwoods in Canada. So there's nice materials to work with, and we have quite a bit of machinery, chop saws and routers and thicknessers and machinery that you're maybe not aware of. But the machinery is very dangerous. It's running at 20,000 revolutions per whatever, and they're very sharp blades, and the wood that I'm cutting can if I don't put it in right, it can shoot back at me. I can get my fingers stuck into the saw. So it's actually a very, very dangerous activity, but it's also very absorbing. So there I use the word concentration. I'm concentrating on maybe I'm trying to square a piece of wood, and I'm putting it through different machinery. So I have to be very, very careful, both to get the work accurate and that I don't hurt myself. So I use concentration that way. Now the thing about woodworking or any other kind of more intense activity is that the object is very interesting or very dangerous, and the object gives me the objective exercise, so we say, gives me the vitality to stay focused, right? If I don't stay focused, I lose my fingers, or I lose the work. Now meditation, we're not using a exciting or interesting even object. We're using very ordinary things like breath, sound, mantra. So the object doesn't really attract you in the same way. It doesn't have the energy to attract you. It's not dangerous. It's not exciting. Like we could do a retreat on horseback riding. That would be interesting. We'd all be very aware because we'd be afraid of falling off the horse. And you say, wow, I was very aware there. Yeah, but you needed the horse. Now we don't have the horse. We don't have the saw. We just have our own minds. So when I think of meditation, I think of more how can I relax the mind rather than how can I focus on something. So my concern in meditation is more about awareness than about the object of awareness. You see what I'm saying? So right now I can focus on a person just left the hall. Okay, I can see them, they're walking along there. So now my attention is on the object. But also I can just remove my kind of going out into the objective world, and I can just be very receptive and just allow visual image to come to me and just be the knowing. So this is a word that Luang Por Sumedho uses a lot, be the knowing, be awareness itself. Knowing in this sense is not knowing in a way of 2 and 2 equals 4. It does, doesn't it? I think 2 + 2 = 4. It's not that kind of knowing. It's the knowing of present moment awareness. So when I just sit here, and I'm aware of this room, and I'm not emphasizing the room, I'm not emphasizing this beautiful lighting or the people in the room, I'm just emphasizing the sense of presence. Then for me, the language I like to use, I'm in a kind of receptive mode. Call it receptive awareness, or knowing, or a puru, or be the puru is in Thai, be the knowing, and so on. And that, to me, takes me to a background. The background which is consciousness, or which is awareness. Now, that's a model I like to use in my own meditation, foreground and background. So let's say I like to use sound. Let's say there's a very loud sound on the porch. Maybe someone is using some kind of a machine to cut something. Okay. So my attention goes out to the sound, right? That's normal. I check it out. Is it dangerous? So my mind going outside is one way I operate. I'm always on objects. Or I can then not go out and just let the sound come to me. If I let the sound come to me, then I'm emphasizing more awareness. When I'm listening to the object, trying to figure out what it is, then I'm emphasizing the object. You see what I mean? And then when I just let go of going out, as it were, and just sit here and just let the sound come to me, then I'm emphasizing awareness. And so that, the model I like to think of as a metaphor is background and foreground. So the sound is the foreground, and the background is awareness. Now, we usually don't pay attention to the background because we're so involved with the foreground. We're so involved with doing things, and we have to. We have to. And usually the doing of things is thought. Thought is very much the foreground. The challenge of meditation, I think, is to come to the background, the silence of awareness, the space of awareness, which is always there. Consciousness is always there. It's not dependent on the type of sound or the type of sight or the type of emotion you have. So again, the model I like is a very simple model, which Luang Por Dun's teaching, I think, describes for me very, very well. And many of you might have read this model, but it's a different take on the Four Noble Truths. Four Noble Truths, there is suffering, its cause, its end, and the path. Cause of suffering is attachment to desire. Nirodha is the cessation of desire, and the path is the realization of the cessation of desire. So that's a very important model that we have. The other model that Luang Por Dun suggests is the mind. So see if you get this one, if you haven't seen it. The mind going outside is the cause. The result of the mind going outside is suffering. The mind knowing the mind is the path. The result of the mind knowing the mind is the end of suffering. So, as an example, the sound begins. It's a very grating sound, very noisy. I've come here for peace. And so my mind goes out, but it doesn't just go out, it goes out with desire. I don't want you, sound. I want you guys to be quiet. Now, if I'm in charge of the retreat, I can go out there and say, please be quiet. That's fine. But let's say I'm not. So the mind going outside, it goes out, and why does it stay out there? Because I don't want that sound. I want silence. So the wanting keeps me out there. But if I just say to myself, oh, wanting feels this way, or annoyance feels this way, then what do? I'm aware of the object. I'm not out there in the object. And then I'm emphasizing awareness. If you've been listening to Luang Por Sumedho's talks, if you haven't, please do, because Luang Por Sumedho's now 90 years old, and he's been giving a lot of teaching, and you'll notice that he always emphasizes, it's like this. Now that is the most simple tautology you could think of. How else could it be but like this? You know, well, big deal. But what he's asking us to do is when you say it's like this, you go to the silence of the mind. It's not a commentary on what it's like. It's the silence of knowing. And when you can touch the silence of knowing, it doesn't matter what it's like. It can be noisy, it can be quiet, it can be painful, it can be beautiful, but you're emphasizing the awareness. It's like this. If you say it shouldn't be like this, then you're emphasizing the object. If you emphasize the awareness, it's like this, then you come to the silence and the background. And as you abide with the background, with awareness itself, then the foreground of emotions and thoughts, they still come and go, but that's no longer your reference point. Your reference point, mind-knowing mind. It's actually a very simple model. Where the complexity comes is thinking and doubting and analyzing and all the rest of it. The way I meditate then is trying to consider that model experientially. Remember that awareness is an experience, it's not a concept. So you can use awareness, you can use sati, you can use sati sampajanya, you can use puru, you can say now is the knowing, you could say present moment consciousness, you can use many, many words, but it is one experience, the experience of awareness. So don't get too much caught up on words. So one of the very difficult objects not to be caught up onto is doubt. Sometimes we study so much and we have so much information that we are constantly consuming thinking. You know, we do consume thoughts, don't we? Or thoughts consume us, whatever you way. And as long as we're into the thinking mind, that's not wrong. We need to use thought in our analytical lives. But in the spiritual life, we have to learn how to not attach to thinking. And how do you do that? Well, you don't do it by getting rid of thinking. You begin to see thought as an object. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. They come and they go. This is very difficult. It's very difficult to actually witness thinking as thinking. So, in terms of what kind of meditation to do, well, I don't think it matters too much, really. If you're too technique oriented, then you can become very mechanistic. You know, you just have this technique, someone tells you to do it, watch your breath, do a mantra, and you become very mechanical. And you just kind of think, if I just do this activity. But I think a mechanical approach or an attachment to technique is I don't think it's intelligent. And intelligence is that, like, say, if you're a tennis player, right? You like to play tennis. Each opponent that you play on the court is different. Each day is different. And your intelligence is going to say, okay, this person has a good serve, but they're not good on lobs, or something like that. And you use your intelligence to play the game. In the same way, you want to first and foremost use your intelligence to just get a sense of, well, what is it like now? What's going on in my mind and body? And that's awareness. It's not a technique. And then in that sense of knowing and being aware, then you just simply look at cause and effect. When I do this, what's the result? When I do that, what's the result? Is it a good result? Is it a bad result? One of the great traps of meditation is reading about attainments or having experiences, and that leads to a lot of craving. You hear about certain levels of experience, certain types of experience in meditation. Maybe you've had some experience. Maybe you've been in an interview where someone has had some fantastic experience. And then you begin to try to find an experience. Trying to find an experience is not awareness. Right? Awareness is the way it is. So each meditation you have to begin again. So we say Zen mind, beginner's mind. We have that common phrase. You begin again. But you do have a body of experience. You have a body of practice, just like the tennis player has a body of practice. And so you want to use intelligence to say, okay, what's going on now? How do I apply my mind to the way things are in the present moment? If you get caught into trying to get something or get rid of something, then you're into tanha. And so the attitude of meditation is about non-desire, desirelessness, non-becoming, non-resistance. Vibhava tanha is resistance. I don't want this mind. I don't want thought. So I try to get rid of thought. Bhava is like, I want to achieve something with my meditation. But the way of letting go is to take the present moment and work with that. So the language you'll find me using is non-becoming. So I use the negation. So non-becoming. Well, how does that affect you? Well, for me, it affects me. No, it's not about the next moment. It's about this moment. Being aware in this moment, present moment reality. Akalika Dhamma. Non-resistance. I use that word a lot. Resistance is trying to get rid of something, trying to get rid of pain, trying to get rid of thought, trying to get rid of negative emotion. Non-resistance. So that hopefully the mind comes to a sense of receptive awareness, knowing the way things are, and trying to stay in the present moment. So that's sort of me. I don't know if that fits in the way you practice, but that, I'm just offering that as a possible kind of model of practice. So I think what I'd like to do is, if you all stretch your legs a bit, and then we'll do a meditation. I'll do a guided meditation. I won't quite stay with the walking pattern there. It's okay, right? So please stretch your legs a bit, and if you want to use a chair, please do so. And then we'll sit for a while. All right. So we'll sit for 45 minutes. So take a posture which is stable. I'd like to just dwell on that idea of awareness as background. Listen to sound. Bring your mind to silence. Listen to sound. Emphasize the listening rather than the quality of sound. Just let the sound come to you. So you're not going out to the sound. Just let the sound come to you. Listening. Try to come to the silence of knowing, of listening. So non-becoming, we're not trying to get anything. And non-resistance, we're accepting this moment as it is, in awareness. Sound. Bringing your attention to another sense door. Feel the hands, feel your hands. Feel the warmth and tactile sensation in the hands. Let that come into consciousness. You're not concentrating on the hands. You're just allowing the feelings to become conscious. Now go back to sound in the same mode of receptive listening awareness. And perceive sound as in awareness. So awareness is conscious space. And sound is moving, changing in conscious space. So sound is in awareness. And go back to your hands. Feel the tactile feelings in your hands. Emphasize the awareness. Let it come to you. And perceive feelings in the hands as in awareness. Back to sound. Feel the hands. Sound body, feeling are changing and what is unchanging. Awareness is unchanging, it's the background. Do that again. Sound is in awareness. Feel the hands in awareness. Awareness is the same. It's not an object, it's the knowing. Be the knowing. Be that awareness. Be aware. So you notice awareness isn't dependent on sound, is not dependent on the bodily feeling. So let's take that model, and that's the background. So with that idea in mind, bring attention to breathing. Feel the breath. Feel an in-breath. Now don't concentrate on the breath like trying to exclude thought or anything like that. Keep the mind very open, receptive. So you're practicing awareness with an in-breath, awareness with an out-breath, background, awareness, foreground, changing breath. So sustaining receptive awareness for a whole in-breath, for a whole out-breath. Being the background for a whole in-breath and a whole out-breath. Now with the thinking mind, it's bound to, thoughts are just natural, they're conditioned by previous events. Now the important thing is, when you notice that you've been thinking, there's actually a gap of silence. Thought is actually stopped. So one of the ways I've often used is, when the thinking mind has been active, and I notice that, then I go to listening. And I establish this, I go back to the silence of knowing by listening, rather than trying to get rid of thought. The idea is you notice the end of a thought. So stay with the breath, but it's not about the breath, it's about awareness. And then when the thinking mind, just when you notice you're thinking, don't try to get rid of thought, just go to listening. Establish silence, and then go back to the breath. The breath is the foreground, awareness is the background. So, some ideas, please try that out, see how it goes. A common problem, of course, is sleepiness and dullness. So when you notice there's a lot of dullness, then basically you have to stop meditating and doing whatever you're doing is bringing the result of sleepiness. So I would suggest just stop meditating, look around, look at the ceiling, look at the Buddha image, and then establish a stronger posture. And I think the secret around dullness and a lot of thinking is very much around the head and the neck. So if you find that there's sleepiness, a lot of thinking, then bring attention to your head, neck, chin especially, and you'll find that the first part of the posture to sort of move is very often the head. Chin drops down, neck drops down. And then, of course, your shoulders can drop down and you're sort of bent over. But if you establish a strong posture and actually stop meditating, just look around and establish presence, and then make a lot of determination to notice your neck, your head, your chin, and make that the object of awareness. And as thinking comes, then you'll notice the head drops, and then you can lift the head again. So with a lot of the thinking mind, you have to be very patient and just come back to the same principle of being awake. But one good thing, of course, is to notice the mood of the mind. So if you have some resentments coming through from something that happened yesterday, or you're worried about some family problem, then the mood, the worry, or the resentment conditions the thinking, obviously. That's self-evident. So if you name the mood, label it, worry or resentment, that gives you more objectivity, you know that the thinking is driven by some previous karma. And then you're more aware of it as an object rather than being the subject that's caught up in the thinking. What's the underlying mood that is driving thoughts? So that takes intelligence, observation. Then you see more how it arises in consciousness and how it creates a sense of self, which is simply thought. Lunch now. I think there's a few minutes left before your lunch. Meal break is 11:30. Okay. If you take that model into walking meditation, same idea. Because people quite often ask, "Oh, what are we doing in walking meditation?" Well, usually we're thinking. We're not quite there. But if you establish a walking path there's a lot of space around, I suppose you could do 20 paces, and establish a beginning and an ending to the path, and mark that out as your territory, and then contain your walking practice within those 20 paces. And then contain it within a time frame. So, let's say the meal is at 11:30, so you decide maybe 45 minutes or something like that. Are you going to ring bells? No. You're going to ring bells, okay. So let's say 45 minutes, and that gives people time to prepare for lunch. Okay, let's say we do walking meditation for 45 minutes. So you have these time frames, and you have a territory, and that's your kind of container. And then within that container, you just try to practice awareness of the way things are. So you begin at one end. You establish presence. It's like this. And try to bring your mind to silence. Try to bring your mind to... So for me to listen to sound, I have to be silent. If I'm thinking, I'm not listening to sound. And if I'm silent, then I'm more with the background of consciousness or awareness. So begin with that. And then walk the 20 paces at a normal pace, slow pace if you want. And just try to really contemplate where the mind is going. Is it going into fantasy or into worry or into whatever? And try to awaken to the mood of the mind. And why does the mind keep producing thinking? not to get rid of it, because thinking is not really who you are. Thinking is just a result of previous actions and habits. That's all it is. So obviously if I had an argument with my brother yesterday, thoughts of resentment might come up today. If my financial situation is difficult, thoughts of worry would come up. So the thought is natural. There's nothing wrong with it. But can we rest the mind? And can we at times just like put it all down, put the world down? So part of the language I like to use is don't go there. Don't pick up the world. Don't get rid of the world. The world is, you still got to live in it. Don't pick it up. Don't go there. Those are very, very soft suggestions, but they're very helpful. So you walk the 20 paces, and then if your mind is really, really busy, just stop and just notice. So thought is like this. And then you'll come to the silence again. Worry feels like this. Come to the silence again. You get to the end of 20 paces, then stop. Turn around mindfully. Stop again. So the ends of the path, they interrupt the thinking process. And you begin to see more and more through walking meditation, thought as objects, rather than you being the subject. Because that's the thing, what happens, the ego comes up and you become the subject of your worries or your resentments or whatever it is. So as thought is seen more and more as an object, then you kind of see how the mind is working. It's jumping into worry, whatever it's doing. So you get to the end of the path, turn around mindfully, establish silence again. It's like this, use listening. And then walk 20 paces again. So after 10 minutes, you'll be bored. Or 5 minutes. And then the boredom will say to you, well, enough of this, let's have a cup of tea. Oh, boredom feels like this. I don't want to do this, feels like this. Now you can see that if in the 45 minutes, assuming you don't have bad legs or you have health problems, that you're healthy enough to walk for 45 minutes, in those 45 minutes you'll have the desire to do something else. Desire to read or maybe eat something, there's not wrong. But if you follow that desire, then your mind is going out into objects, which isn't immoral, but it doesn't settle your mind. But if you walk for the 45 minutes and just witness the desire not to do this, or the fantasizing of the mind, just keep witnessing, then the mind naturally settles down. So this requires patience and some discipline, staying with it. But it's not something you do forcefully. If you try to get rid of thought, that's violent. And the basis of Buddhist practice is kindness. So you want to be kind to yourself, but also aware, intelligent with what's going on. So if we alternated like 45 minutes sitting, 45 minutes walking, then you can see over a period of time, just the natural tendency of the mind is to settle down. While I'm at it, if I may, I'm sorry for all this talking, you probably want to meditate, but may I just suggest also lying down meditation? Lying down meditation is great if you've got bad knees or if you have spinal problems or whatever. So the way I practice lying down meditation, it's one of the 4 postures, is to assume the reclining posture on a soft surface, so it's not harmful for the body. Then I set it up so that my knees are cupped, so I put a pillow under my knees. If you put a pillow under your knees, that's good for the small of your back. There's less strain on the small of your back. So you're lying down and your knees are up a little bit, or however much you want. And then I set up the neck very carefully and make sure that the chin is in line with the neck so that the chin isn't down and the chin isn't up, because the chin will your neck will get sore. So you spend a certain amount of time setting up the posture, and then the arms can be on the surface or on your thighs, whatever's comfortable. So you kind of play around with that posture. And then the instruction that I found very helpful was that once you've got it set up, say to yourself, okay, I'm going to readjust my posture 10%. 10%. So you readjust it 10%, whatever 10% is. And then you make a determination not to move. And this is where because lying meditation is not easy, because it's a posture we fall asleep in. But you make a determination to, first of all, stay on your back, and having adjusted the posture, not to move. So what you'll find is, within 30 seconds of lying there, you'll want to scratch yourself. Or you want to just change your left shoulder just a little bit. Don't do it. And then you'll want to roll on your side. Don't do it. If you roll on your side, you'll be asleep. So you'll find that actually there's a kind of restlessness that is not really related to pain. It's just the restlessness of the mind-body construct. So if you use stillness then as the main meditation method, and you use full body awareness. So by full body awareness, you're just aware of the body as a vibrating energy system. And you can just feel the body, so it's hot, or it's itchy, or it's got energy, or whatever, and that becomes the object. So body in awareness, so you're emphasizing awareness again. The body is in awareness. It's not my body, it's not my shoulder, it's not my knee, it's the body in all its kind of vibratory energy, and then not moving. And that's a posture that some people find incredibly helpful, and some don't find it helpful. Many people snore, and snoring is actually very, very interesting, because when you become very relaxed with the body, then your mind wants to dip into deep sleep. And quite often you'll snore, and the snoring sometimes actually makes you more alert, but your mind has dipped into a more relaxed state. So it's a very interesting posture to I think, investigate, and especially if, like, holding the body up has a lot of resistance and difficulty. I found many people who have arthritis, or there was one gentleman who was he was in terminal care for kidney, I think his kidneys or his liver cancer, and he had given up on meditation because he couldn't sit cross-legged. I said, no, why don't you try lying meditation? Yeah, and he was there. He could do that. So don't think that meditation has to be painful. Lying meditation sounds like you're cheating. You can be comfortable, it's all right. The thing is, you fall asleep. That's the thing. Sitting posture is great. If you've got like a half lotus or a full lotus or a Burmese posture, and you can hold your back up, that's super good. But if you want to try that, maybe not in this context, because if we were all lying around here, it wouldn't look good. But in the context of your own home, it's an interesting posture to develop. So let's do the walking meditation. There'll be a bell in 45 minutes. I'll disappear, and then I'm back at 2:15. Is that correct? 2:15. Instructions, sitting meditation. Yep. Or 1:30. I could come in. Okay, yeah. All right. Bonne chance.